I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. We are so privileged and honored to have a real tzaddik in our midst, Reb Joe Alexander. And I'm not going to share his story, even though I picked him up from Los Angeles and we had an incredible ride all the way to the valley. And as you know, going on the 405, it's not so quick, and I heard a lot about it, and I promise you, you're in for a treat. So without further ado, please give your attention to my new friend, Reb Joe Alexander, as he shares some amazing and inspiring words with us.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm a Holocaust survivor from Poland, and I survived 12 camps. I come from a small town in Poland. My father was in business, and we had a very good life in Poland until 1939. When the Germans came into Poland, they divided Poland in two halves. One half was annexed to the Third Reich. The second half was Poland under German occupation. We lived on the part where it was annexed to the Third Reich. After a few weeks, they came to town, and they went. We lived in Europe, most of you know. Every town has a town square, and that's where most of the business are. We lived in a town square on the corner. The second house in one corner, and the third house was an uncle of mine. After a few weeks, they came to town and passed my uncle and around the square, and they told the people they have 10 minutes to get their possessions and get out in the middle of the square, and they took them away. For some reason, I'll never know why, they left the three houses where we were the second house. So then a rumor started that they're going to come back 3 days later and take the rest of us. So my dad had three sisters living about 25 kilometers before Warsaw, which was the second half of Poland. So Dad said, we're not going to wait for them to come and give us 10 minutes. So he got out and he rented a wagon. We had deep wagons, horse-drawn wagons, about 8 feet high, and packed up the stuff from the store. And he put a few pieces of bedding on top and a couple pieces of furniture, because from our part to the other part, you had to go through a border. So my parents and one sister and brother, they left. I remained with two other sisters, and we were loading up a second wagon. In the meantime, the Polish people from around town were coming to town to buy anything they can get. I saw the man a bicycle and a boat of shirt material. On the way home, he had to pass the police station, so he got stopped. They wanted to know where did he get that material. They thought maybe people started to looting already. So he said, I bought it. And show me a receipt. He said, I don't have a receipt. Then go bring the person who sold it to you. So he came back to me and said, you have to go with me to the police station, not they're going to come here. So I went with him to the police station and asked me, did you sell him that? I said, yes. Why didn't you give him a receipt? He said, we in Poland, we didn't give receipts. So I took the boat of material, smacked the guy, and let him go, and let me go. And I went back, my sisters waited for me, and we took off with the wagon, and we came to a little town named Blunt, about 25 kilometers before Warsaw. So we come there, and there life was going on almost normal. People were still in business, but everybody had to go to work. So being there for about 2 weeks, I went to my first camp in 1939. I went to a camp where you work during the week, on the weekend you can go home. But the work we were doing, we were building a canal. You're staying in the water up to the knee without boots, and that was October, November. In Europe, that's around winter time. So I worked there for about 6 weeks, and then I went home on the weekend, and I said I'm not going back, because I got sores on my arms, on my legs, blood poisoning. So Monday morning, the police came to look for me. So Dad said, he's not here, he's supposed to be in the camp. So I stayed away from home for a while. And that was a time where in Warsaw, they were starting to build a wall where the Warsaw Ghetto was going to be. After they got through building the wall, they came out and ordered all the Jews who lived within 50, 60 kilometers around the Warsaw had to move into the Warsaw Ghetto. So we moved into the ghetto, but you can't even imagine how terrible, how bad it was. People were dying every day. You walked out in the morning, there were dead people on the streets, on the sidewalks, everywhere. Because the area they picked out for the ghetto was a small area, and they put in over 400,000 people. So it was so bad, very bad. So I lived in the ghetto for about 5 months, and we found out back home, since we left, nothing has changed. So my parents decided for an older sister and a younger brother and I, we should go home, back home. So to get out of the ghetto, so we had to pay off the guards at the gates to get out. We got out, and we said, this, my sister and brother take one street, and I'll take another street, and we walk through town. We meet on the outskirts of town. I walked for about 3 blocks, and when a Polish teenager comes over and said, give me some money, or I'm going to report you. So I figured I gave him some money and got rid of him. And I kept walking. But he got on a streetcar, and we rode the streetcar for a few blocks, and he comes over again, give me some more money. So this time I gave him some more money, but I changed the street, and I lost it. I walked to the outskirts of town, I met my sister and brother, and we went home. So I came back, they said nothing has changed since we left. So I've been there for 3 days. Then they came out with an order, all the Jewish men from 16 to 60 to report to the schoolhouse. So I went to report to the schoolhouse, and off I went to the camps. So the first camp I went to, we were building a dam. You were cutting down hills. We had little electric cars where you fill them up, and they take them another place and they dump it. The work we do was very hard work, and because we had used picks to loosen up the ground. And the food you were getting was a piece of bread like this in the morning, and a cup of coffee, and you went to work. He came back from work, he got a soup, which it was either the peels from potatoes or spinach. Doing that kind of work, you couldn't survive. The only way you could survive, because we worked with civilians. People, regular people came to work in the morning, in the afternoon, after work they went home. So if you can manage to get a little extra food, that's the only way you could survive. So people were dying. I was in a city called Poznan, and there were camps in the city and around the city. So every morning they took dead people out of the camp. So the camp was getting very small. So I was moved from one camp to another. So I moved from this camp to another camp, and I was laying cobblestones on the streets. That lasted a short time. Then I moved to another camp. I was building sewers. We were laying cement pipes on the ground, big cement pipes, sewers. All these camps didn't last too long. Then I moved to another camp. I was a roofer. We were doing roofs. Then I moved to a camp where we built a little airport. I was laying a railroad track. So all these camps didn't last too long. And after being in 7 camps, a train arrived, and it wasn't a passenger train, you know, a cattle car train. Actually, I showed you here the picture. One of the cars, box cars like this here. And they put 30, 40 people in one boxcar. In the destination we were going, takes maybe 5, 6 hours at the most. We were riding around for 3 days. No food, no water, no facilities. The destination was Auschwitz. So we came to Auschwitz. There's a little town named Oswiecim, and the train stopped downtown. They opened the doors from the train. About 30–40% of the people were already dead on the train. Whoever could walk, you walked out. We were lined up in rows of 5. And I met Dr. Joseph Mengele. Dr. Mengele was called the Doctor of Death. He selected people for human experiment or for the gas chamber. So Dr. Mengele said there are 6 kilometers to walk to the camp. He's going to select people to go to the left. The people on the left are going to be taken on trucks. So he went through and he picked out sick people, old people, young kids. I was a young kid. Picked me out too to go to the left. If I would come from home, I wouldn't know the difference. But I was already in 7 camps. In every camp I was, I tried to go to work. I tried to get in with the biggest, strongest man. And here I look around and I see sick people, old people. That's not the kind of people I like to be with. So my luck was, it was after midnight. If it would have been daytime, I don't know if I could have done it. When Dr. Mengele moved further down, I ran back to the other side. If I didn't run back to the other side, I wouldn't be here talking to you tonight. Because the people taken on the trucks went straight to the gas chamber. So I ran back to the other side, and I walked to the camp. I got a shower, and came out with the shower, and I got a tattoo. $142,584. From that moment on, you had no name anymore. That was your name. So I got a tattoo, and then there was Auschwitz II, we called Birkenau. I walked to Birkenau. I was in Birkenau for about 6 weeks, and that was the worst camp. I saw in Birkenau people gave up already. They were going to the electric fence to get electrocuted. I saw people being beaten to death because they gave up. So it was very bad, and I saw Dr. Mengele 2 more times in Birkenau, but it was daytime, and I was far away from here where he was, so I got through. And that was a time where the Warsaw Ghetto uprising was. It was in April of 1943. After the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, they said they need a big transport, but they didn't want to take any people from Poland. They only wanted people from Hungary, Greece, Italy. And the end, they were short about 300 people for the quota they wanted. They said, now we'll take some people from Poland. So I report, and I was going back to the Warsaw Ghetto for the second time. We came back to the ghetto. There wasn't one house left. All the houses were burned up. The only thing was the remaining walls from the houses. And our job was to take down those bricks, the walls brick by brick, and clean them up and put them up in stacks about 8-10 feet high. And there was no camp, so they gave us some prefabs. We had to put together our own barracks. And in the meantime, by the time we put the barracks together, the typhus broke out. Typhus broke out, you got very high fever, very high temperature. If anybody I knew who went report to the hospital, I never knew anybody came out of the hospital. I got the high fever, but I had we called a couple, like a foreman. He was a middle-aged German man, but he was also a prisoner. So he didn't care if we worked or he didn't work. When I got the high fever, I was sitting behind those stacks of bricks like this for about 3 days until I got over the temperature and went back to work. So I went back to worked for a while in the Polish underground, attacked our camp one night, trying to free us. So they were fighting all night, were unsuccessful. So the next morning, they closed the camp, and that we tried to get out of the city. We had to jog. They said they were afraid that the underground is going to attack us in the city. So to jog to get out, and they put us up on a big field where the farmers graze their cows. The ground is very moist. Put it on that field, whatever means you have, knife or spoon, anything, to dig up some mud. And you took the bottom of your shirt and you squeezed the mud to get a little water. So I got a little water, and the next morning we're on the march. We come to a city, there was a river. So they let us go to the river to get some water. Two of our people went a little further into the river. They thought maybe they were going to escape, get out on the other side. They got killed, they got shot right in the river. So we have some water and we were walking. We came to the next town, was the same river, but they said, oh no, 100 people at the time can go to the river to get some water. So I went, we got some water, and we start walking. And that day was very heavy rain was coming down. You were walking, you could hardly walk, you were soaking wet. You could hardly walk until we arrived at the railroad station. And then the next morning, the train arrived, same train, and we were 3.5 days on the train this time, with no food, no water, nothing. And we went to Germany. Went to a camp name in Germany named Dachau. Dachau was the first camp Hitler built in 1933 for political prisoners. Then he turned it into a concentration camp with a gas chamber. So I came to Dachau for about 2 weeks. I didn't do anything because they were establishing 12 camps, all by numbers, within 50, 60 kilometers in the surrounding area of Dachau. And after 2 weeks, I was sent to camp number 1, and I was working for a farmer digging potatoes. That lasted about 3 weeks. Then I was sent to about 50 kilometers from Dachau to a city of Landsberg on Lech. It was camp number 7. Went to camp number 7. We were a small group. We were in the camps already over 4 years. So we had the privilege of getting the better jobs in the camp. And that was the only camp I was where women who were in the same camp, but they blocked off one corner of the camp by a wire fence. But we went to work together. So we came to camp number 7. A friend of mine got jobs in the kitchen. 3 of them were the police in the camp, and some of them, one was a carpenter and a metalsmith. They got a little job, and I got a group of 10 people, who were 5 girls and 5 boys, working for the German guards in the kitchen, for the German guards outside the camp. But I had 2 men in charge of the kitchen, and they were very good. They were very good men to me. Every day, I was going back to the camp. I took some food back for my friends, and we had always had some soup left over. So, excuse me. So we had some soup left over. So we had some big milk cans. I took a milk can and put it in. And the next morning, people were going to work at the Best Buy Out kitchen. So I stopped him and gave him some food. A couple of times, the officer in charge of the kitchen, in charge of the guards, complained that I'm holding up the people going to work. But my people told me, don't worry, let them.
Water? There's water right here.
Thank you. So he complained that I'm holding up the people going to work, but my people told me, don't worry about it, do what you're doing. And that lasted for quite some time. Actually, till April 28, 1945, all the 12 camps had to go back to Dachau. We came back to Dachau, stayed overnight, and the next morning, what they called we're going on a death march. They're supposed to take us into the mountains in Germany. I don't know.
More water?
I don't know. No, maybe that'll be better. Thank you. So, they're supposed to take us into the mountain. There's a ski resort in Germany called Garbis. And they're supposed to kill us in the mountain. Well, we walked for 2 days. We knew we're not going to be walking too far, because you could hear the fighting. We knew that the American troops are not far behind us. So we walked for 2 days and crossed a little bridge, and the little bridge was blown up. So our group was divided in 2 halves. I was on a half, was in a village named Königsdorf, and there was a little forest in the village. So they took us into the forest, and they asked for volunteers to take the sick people into the village and put them into the farmers to the barn, and told the volunteers to come back. One of the volunteers was a friend of mine. So on the way back, they found a dead horse in the snow. So they cut up some pieces from the horse, and a friend came back with a piece of meat and said, do something. I was barbecuing, and believe me, it was the best meal we had in a long time. That was the friend of mine. You can see right here. His name was Joe Buddha. And that was the best meal we had in a long time. So during the night, the guard disappeared. So the next morning, the police came and they took us into the village and they disappeared. It was in the morning between 8 and 9 o'clock. So we just walked around the village to see what's going to happen next. So walked around till between 12 and 1 o'clock, an American tank moved in and we were liberated. Behind the tank were American troops. So they tried to block off the village not to let anybody out, but we were 9 of us. We were in the camps over 5 years. We didn't want to get blocked in. We broke through and started to walk to see where the next town is. So we walked about 1 or 2 kilometers and there was a bakery. So we got into the bakery, everybody got a bread. You had a bread, you were okay. And we keep walking, and we come to a town named Bar Telz, and we see 3 American soldiers. They were trying to walk. They were holding on to each other, they were drunk. They couldn't even walk, they were holding on to each other. But they saw us, they guessed the clothes we were wearing. They asked, "Are you Polish?" Told them, "Yes." So come on. So they took us into an underground bunker. It was a warehouse, you couldn't see the end of it. So the first thing, everybody changed clothes, and you took a backpack, and then you put some food in, and there was a big row of bicycles chained up. They broke the chain, and everybody got a bicycle. Now we should find a place to stay. Because when the American troops came in behind the tank, they brought all the people to that city. It used to be a German Air Force base. They made a DP camp, a displaced person camp. But we didn't want to go to a camp. So we tried to get out to find a place to stay. So you couldn't get out to where we were because it was after 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock was curfew. So we hopped over about 3 or 4 fences, and we came to a German inn, but it was taken over by the American troops. And in the back of the inn was an empty house, so we took over the house. So we stayed in the house about 10 days, and then they came out to order anybody who lives outside the camp has to move into the camp. So we moved into the camp there, and then we were taken back to Munich, which is the capital of Bavaria, to a DP camp, but you are free. You wanted, you could live at the camp, or you can go any place you want. So I lived at the camp there for 3 days, and a couple of friends of mine and we decided to go back to the city of Landsberg, where camp number 7 was. And come back to Landsberg. In Landsberg, there was a lot of DP camps at the time in Germany. Landsberg was one of the biggest. So I went to Landsberg to the camp to register. They gave me a room, and I stayed overnight. The next morning, I moved out 7 kilometers from town, and I lived in a farmhouse. I moved out and lived to a farm, and lived in a farmhouse. The reason we went to the registered all the camps, because in case any of your family survived. You know, when I got out of the Warsaw Ghetto, I left my parents, 2 sisters and 1 brother in the Warsaw Ghetto. Until today, I don't know what happened to them. So in case any survived, so that's why we went to register. Everyone was going through the list. So we moved into a farm, and I lived in the farmhouse about 6 weeks, and I decided to go back to Poland, to my hometown, to go to my house to see if anybody came back. So I came back to the house. So I had survivors living on the 2nd floor of our house. On the 1st floor were Polish people. but they said nobody from my immediate family came back. The only one that came back was a cousin of mine, which we grew up together. He was 2 years younger than I. I was separated from him when Dr. Mengele told me to go to the left in Auschwitz. I was with him and two of his father's brothers, two of his uncles. But the uncles didn't survive, but he survived, but he is in a different town. And that was a very bad time for survivors who came back to Poland because they killed a lot of survivors. When they took the Jews out from the homes, then the Polish people, they moved into the homes. Now some of the survivors came back, they didn't want to give up the home, so they killed a lot of survivors. In one town named Kielce, they killed 42 survivors in one town. So the Polish people who lived in my house on the first floor asked me if I'm going to stay. They said they'll move out. I said, no, don't bother. I went and I got my cousin. We went back to Germany. And I lived in Germany for 4 more years. I couldn't go any place because I didn't have a passport. You have to wait until some country opens up. So after 4 years, Canada said they're going to take some people. So we went and I registered, and then you have to wait until they call you. Took a long time, I didn't hear from them. In the meantime, a friend of mine lived in the next village, came and said, now you can go to Munich and register to go to America. So I went to Munich, I registered. It was just a very short time. I had an order to go get checked out by the American doctor, and then also had to get checked out by the FBI to check you out. And also all this within about 2 weeks, then I got a note to go to Bremerhaven, and that's a port in Germany, to get the boat to come to America. So I went and I got on a boat, and I arrived in New York on May 30, 1949. Came to New York. I came to New York, everybody had to have a sponsor. Either you had some relatives here or an organization. I didn't have any relatives here, so I was sponsored by a Jewish organization named Joint. And my contract was Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I went to Harrisburg. I got a job in Harrisburg for a man who had a cleaning store and a tuxedo rental. So I got a job as a tailor. And I worked for a man, my father couldn't be better than this man was me. His name was Max Kaplan. And he was very good to me. But then I came, and the cousin of mine who survived, he had an uncle here in Santa Monica. He was his sponsor. So he came here, came late in October, and he told the uncle that I'm in Pennsylvania, and we were the only 2 survivors from both of our families. So the uncle called me a few times, I should come here. So in 1950, I came to California. And before that, I was in 3 camps. I had to watch people being hung. People trying to escape, they got cut. And then on Sunday, we had to gather around watching being hung. I saw 3 hanging. So now here I am now. So if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer you.
Before we get to questions, I'm going to show a little video of Joe's life over here, about 15 clips. And then afterwards, we'll open up to questions, and Joe will answer all the questions.
Well, this is a picture. It was taken in 1923 at the Polish border. On the top right, that was my father, and next to him was his brother, my uncle. He went away from Poland, went to England. He didn't want to go into the army, so he left for England. So he couldn't come back to Poland, so they met at the border, and that was my grandparents. So that was taken in 1923. That's to the left here, that's my father, and this is my sister. That's the only picture I have of them. And this is a picture here. There's the friend of mine with the horse meat, and that's me, and this is my cousin who survived. His name, we had the same last name. His name was Mark Alexander. This is, which one is this?
Certificate of release from Dachau.
Oh, that's not from, no, this is not from Dachau. This one, no, this one shows you on this here that I was in the camps from 1939 to May 2nd, 1945. This is the one from, this is a picture from the liberation from Auschwitz. There on the bottom you can see there's my tattoo on that. This is actually a picture here of something. This is a driver's license I had from Germany, where there was no expiration date on it. It's a lifetime driver's license. And believe it or not, I used it twice in Germany. Oh, you just missed something. Go here in 2015, I was invited by the German government to come back to Dachau to celebrate 70 years the liberation of Dachau. And here I see a picture. I talked to Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany. This is just a picture by next to my documentation from the this is a picture at the museum, the Holocaust Museum, Los Angeles, where I speak. No. This is another picture where I show my tattoo. That was taken in the Los Angeles newspaper, Los Angeles Times. That's this picture. This is a picture. This is the way we lived. I was going to show you that. In the camps, you see shelves. One section was for 3 people, and on the bottom here, on the end of this, you can see it on this one, now you see it. On the end of the second row, down on the end, that's Elie Wiesel.
Oh, wow.
He is on this picture. Yeah. So here, this is the picture. See down here, that's Elie Wiesel. Right down here, here.
Wow. Okay, we have questions.
While you were in the DP camps, did you ever think of going to Israel?
Why do you think to go to Israel?
No. So what he wants to know is, while you were in the DP camp,
Yeah.
did you ever think about, I want to go to Israel?
Well, before when I was 10 years old, I belonged to a Zionist organization, the Chalutz, Shomer Alum, and everything was for Israel. The name I have now, what I took Joseph, is not my real birth name. That was my brother's name. He was in a kibbutz in Poland for 6 months to get a certificate to go to Israel. But he went through the 6 months, and then at the time, England had the Balfour Declaration. Was a minister named Balfour. He was handing out so many Jews a year can go to Israel. When he finished the 6 months, he cut the quota in half. So my brother had to wait to get his certificate. The war broke out. So he didn't get to go. Otherwise, he would go, then I would have gone to Israel. God didn't want me somehow not to go to Israel. Because also here is one thing, when I was liberated, 2 days later, when I told you I went to Munich, to a camp in Munich, Israel had the Haganah. You know, there was a group, a British, they were fighting with the Britain. They came through and they asked if anybody wants to go to Israel with them. We were 12 boys ready to go. Because before, let's say, before the war, everything was for Israel. So 12 boys ready to go. So they said they're going to Belgium. On the way back, they'll pick us up. They never came back. They went a different way. If they would come back, then I would go to Israel. To show you that God didn't want me to go to Israel.
What year was this? What year was this?
What year was that?
That was 1945. Just a couple of weeks after I was liberated.
Any other questions? Amnon?
What is it that you said to yourself throughout the process that kept you going, seeing that you'll make it? Was there anything that you said to yourself throughout all this process that made you believe that you're gonna make it through?
What he wants to know is,
Yeah,
Yeah, you got it.
no, I wanted to survive. Because, I spoke to about hundreds of thousands of high school students here. And I tell them what I saw in Birkenau, that people running to the electric fence to get electrocuted or beaten to death. So they always ask me, did you ever think of giving up? I said, no, I never did. I never lost my faith. I never stopped believing in God. And I say, I may have a bad day today, I said. And I hope tomorrow will be a better day. But never give up.
Lori?
How old were you when you were in the concentration camps?
16.
Michael?
Do you see any similarities with the rise in anti-Semitism now from what you experienced or what you saw when you were younger?
Yes. That's how it started in Germany. Remember, it started in Germany. The first thing, what they did is Jews couldn't go to school. Jews couldn't practice lawyers. Jews couldn't practice, Jews couldn't do anything. Everywhere you went, everything was for. Excuse me. I want to look for something to show you. No. It's in here, something.
What's it called?
It's a book of some of the kids, one of the school wrote.
We'll get back to the microphone.
Here. See, there's a school here in Los Angeles called the Otis Design Center. I spoke to them about 5 weeks every Monday for a few hours, and then they put together a book with my history. And you see, look what it says, read it. So it says
Do
here.
you believe in luck, Joe?
Pointed on, then pointed at the back.
No, I believe in God. So Michael had a question about the anti-Semitism from then to now.
That's how it started. That's how it started in Germany after 1933. Jews couldn't practice couldn't do any lawyers, couldn't be teachers or anything. Now everywhere you go to any office said verboten for Jews. Jews couldn't go in. That's how it started in Germany. And then you heard about 1938, the Kristallnacht. So that's how it started in Germany.
Dr. Mark?
Since you came to California, you said you arrived in Santa Monica, and you've been here, what, 50-some years?
74 years.
In California?
Yeah.
Did you have any profession? What kind of work have you done in the United States?
No, when I came, I was in Santa Monica, actually. My cousin was in Santa Monica.
So where did you go?
When I came here, I went to Victorville. You heard about Victorville. There used to be World War II, was a big Air Force base. In 45, 46, they closed the base. When I came in 1950, the Korean War started. So they reopened the base, and I got a tailor shop at the base with my cousin. So I was 7 years, I was at Victorville, and I used to come to Los Angeles almost every weekend. So after 7 years, I decided, I said, I'm going to Los Angeles, I'm going to open a store in Los Angeles. I opened a store on Melrose, next block from Paramount Studio. Selling military uniforms. It was called the Los Angeles Uniform Exchange. I was there for 37 years, and we sold all to the movies, to television, all the uniforms.
Maybe some Purim costumes. Michael?
I had a follow-up question in that, what advice do you have for young Jews like myself, I'm 25 years old, what advice do you have for my generation sort of going forward?
Well, you did 25, already, you're not a little boy anymore. Advice is do whatever, I don't know what you trying to make your life, what are you doing or what, is to do what you can do and keep on going. Don't give up. Whatever you try, go ahead until you see. I hope you succeed.
Mike?
There is a lot of controversy regarding the Polish people's attitude toward the Jews. what would you say that, in honestly, what was the attitude of Polish people toward the Jews, and did they participate in Holocaust? Did they were neutral in Holocaust? You said at one point that underground tried to liberate you guys, but you know, just last year or 2 years ago, the Polish government issued some declaration that they never, you know, the Jews were treated very well during the Holocaust. The enemy was Germans, not the Pope. What would be your honest opinion about the Polish attitude towards you?
Well, you see, actually, the Polish, excuse me, they saved, actually, Polish people, they saved a lot of Jews. But they could have saved a lot more if they would be more sympathetic to the Jews. They had a lot of collaborators with the Germans, which killed a lot of Jews. But in general speaking, I had no problem, never had any problem with it. Before the war, we didn't have any anti-Semitism in Poland.
Then,
So you were in Germany, you must have been there during the Nuremberg trials. My question is, did you watch them or did you listen to them on the radio, and what was your reaction to the Nuremberg trials at the time?
he's a future lawyer.
Well, my reaction was, well, I hope they get what they deserve. That the Germans were getting what they were deserving. Because even whatever they were getting, it still wasn't enough.
Rabbi Avi.
First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Alexander, for speaking to us. My question to you is, you mentioned that when you worked at the first camp that there were local people working at the dam, right?
Yeah.
Did they bring you food? What are your thoughts on like the average German civilian? They say that it wasn't really their fault, it was the Nazis. What are your thoughts on what was really happening to the populace at that time?
Well, actually, we never had any conversation with them. We just did our job. What they did, if not for them, I wouldn't survive. They did give me some extra food.
So you felt like they cared about you? Not, I want to say cared.
I don't know if I didn't know
Not
if they cared
but at
about
least they gave you food, but
I don't know if they cared about me, but they did give me some extra food. That's how I survived.
and in general, the Germans, you say were they all on board with the Nazis, or you think, what are your thoughts just on the German people?
I don't know. We have no conversation about it. You know, never wanted to get into conversations.
Smart move.
Rebbitzin Daniela.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for being here this evening. We really all are so honored and privileged that you're here. I also want to know, as a parent, what is it that your parents said to you or did for you that gave you such a strong faith in God? Like, where are your roots from? What did your parents do to make you feel such a strong connection to God?
Well, let's see, my parents. I would say, like, for instance, I had a very good upbringing, very good, nice, good parents. Like I say, I show you, my parents and my father made a synagogue in our house. So we were called the modern Orthodox. And this is why we had a good life, a good upbringing, and I guess I got some good genes. Otherwise, I don't think I could have survived.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get to you. Yes.
Do you have children, and if so, how did you explain the Holocaust to them?
I have a daughter and a son. How? explain though, I don't know how you can't explain anything like it. I just told them what happened. They know what I went through and what happened. So,
Any other questions? Billy, we'll get to you in a second.
Yes, my mother was a Holocaust survivor, and for many, many years, she couldn't even talk about all the atrocities and things that happened to her. Were you able to talk about it early on, or did it take you years to be able to open up and speak?
well, the first time I spoke about it was 1997. I had a friend here in Culver City. He belonged to a club called the Exchange Club with Jews and Gentiles. And they met every Tuesday for lunch. So one day she said to me, Joe, why don't you come with me to lunch? So I went into lunch, and then he said, no, why don't you tell the people what you went through, what happened to you? So that was the first time I talked there. Then I have a neighbor who was teaching Holocaust study at the synagogue on Losyango at the Betam. So she asked me to come and talk to them. After that, there was a man at the Holocaust Museum, Los Angeles, you know, where Pan Pacific Park is. There was a man there, he was on the board at the museum. I don't know, he heard about me talking. So he called me, he said, Joe, why don't you come to the museum and talk at the museum? So that was about 5 years ago. So I went to the museum, and I'm still talking at the museum.
Oh, it's needed. There's not enough survivors to talk and tell their stories, and it's so important to hear it.
Yes. No, were just a few of us left.
Right.
But then there's a man in Burbank. He is a coordinator of public schools, Burbank, Glendale, and Los Angeles. And he gives me public schools to talk. And I talk to hundreds of thousands, middle school and high school. All the schools about 2-3 times already, every year at the Burbank and Glendale.
Yes.
So given your public speaking, and you've been doing this already, several years, what do you do about Holocaust deniers? Despite your efforts, what do you do about Holocaust deniers?
Well, when I talk to the high school students, these are the most important ones, because I would say maybe 90% are not Jewish. So I tell them 6 million Jews were murdered, 1.5 million children. They weren't murdered because they were criminals or did anything wrong, just because they were Jews. And there's a lot of anti-Semitism going on now, and there's some Holocaust deniers. I call the Holocaust deniers, they're crazy, because the evidence is still in existence today. We've been back to all the camps, and you see every day, you can see buses, people coming from all over the world to witness. The gas chambers and the ovens are still in existence today. That's why I tell them, don't listen to those Holocaust deniers, they're crazy. So that's what I tell them. And this is the ones we have to educate the young people to know what happened. I was told 70% of the Holocaust, of the high school students never heard about the Holocaust. So this is what we have to do, is to educate the young people.
Yankel?
Did you not want to buy, did you not want to buy German products after the war? Cars and other things?
Well, German, today it's a different German today. I've been back several times. I was just back in May. They were calling. I wasn't going to go because they kept calling, come. Back to Dachau to celebrate 78 years of liberation. And I was there, I told you, in 2015, I spoke to Angela Merkel there. And we were treated, you couldn't ask for better treatment. They pay for everything. And now they are ready. I had a Zoom with Dachau about 2 weeks ago. I had a Zoom with Dachau. And even I just got from the guy who was in charge of that, a birthday card. I got them. And also, I actually didn't know, I don't know how, he sent me a Christmas card. And I get New Year's, God, I think I should have some here. Every year, I get a New Year's card from Germany. Here, I got a whole bunch of them. See these cards, these envelopes here? Every year, yes, says the Happy New Year. German.
How do you say Happy New Year in German?
Happy New Year. Gutes neues Jahr. So,
Dr. Mark,
Tell us about your wife, the mother of your children. Was she also a Polish Jew? Did she survive the camps?
no, my
Where did
wife
you
was
meet her?
born here in America, in Scranton, Pennsylvania. She was born.
How many years were you married?
38 years.
Michael?
I was curious, when you're speaking to these students at at these schools, do you get the impression that the message is being received? Because there are certain times where I'll talk to some of my friends' siblings, and I don't know if it's just because it's in my delivery, but I feel like a lot of the time, because they have their phones, they feel like that they're experts on everything geopolitically related. Do you ever feel like the kids already feel like they know what they're talking about and that they're not listening, or?
Yeah, no, you're right. When I first started to talk to them, I thought the same thing. That young kids, they don't play, they play around, they don't pay attention. But after I talked to school, I have thousands of letters from the kids. Every school, they send me letters, and I get the letters, they repeat the words I tell them. I have thousands of letters. So they do pay attention. I thought the same thing.
In the back?
I have a very simple question. How did you get to barbecue the horse?
How you do?
How did you make the fire?
To make a fire.
How?
I was in the forest.
Yeah, oh, so you knew how to do 2 rocks or 2 sticks?
I don't remember how, but I did make a fire. I don't know exactly how. But maybe somebody, people were smoking, maybe somebody had some matches.
Yankel?
Does Germany still give you reparations every year?
You get reparations from Germany still?
Yes,
Every year.
yeah.
Do it until the end.
Anyone else? Yes, Michal?
So, what is your relationship like now with Hashem?
With who?
Hashem.
My relationship with Hashem is very good. Because, you know, I belong to a synagogue called the Hollywood Temple Bethel in Ein Gaba. So you see, my relation with God is still good.
And you go every Shabbos.
Well, Shabbos, the holiday, yeah.
Joe wears this hat, everyone. It says, "Not everyone looks this good at 100." It's obsolete because he's 101 now, Baruch Hashem. And we all give you a bracha. May you live till 120 plus tax and license. But just before we conclude,
It's after Hashem.
yes, just before we conclude, I want to thank Reb Joe on behalf of all of us, and on behalf of Chabad of Woodland Hills. We are going to donate something to the Holocaust Museum that you're so, passionate about.
I appreciate
So we will
that.
be giving some money over there on your behalf. And just to conclude this beautiful inspirational evening, let's all sing a song which is all about the belief that, first of all of the hard times are going to come to an end. Especially now in Eretz Yisrael, and may Hashem bring safety and security to our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, and all the hostages should return safely, speedily, unharmed and alive back to their homes today, Amir Hashem. Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin, Ve'emunah Shelema, Bevias HaMoshiach, Bevias HaMoshiach, Ani Mamin, Bevias HaMoshiach, Bevias HaMoshiach, Ani Mamin, Hayani Mamin, Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin, Me'emunah Shelema, Bevias HaMoshiach, Bevias HaMoshiach, Ani Mamin, Bevias HaMoshiach, Bevias HaMoshiach, Ani Mamin. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
I just want to let everyone know that before I picked up Joe today, I came to his house and we put on tefillin together. And it was such a special moment for me that he gave me the honor to put on tefillin with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Enjoy your evening, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
If you want to get a selfie,
I just want to have a call.
don't get a selfie. This crowd's so shy. Usually everybody you can walk some. If you want to get a selfie, you can. You asked some very good questions.
Oh, thank you. Professor.
I'm his girlfriend. Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Lovely necklace, by the way.
Every day when I was home from school, you know, my friends.
I need to get one, so I saw.
Rabbi's little boy gave me this.
Wow.
You get a few.
Very
Bringthehome.com. Org.
I gotta order. I gotta order.
Elon Musk has one.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
With the interview with Ben Shapiro.
I know. It's,
And he says, I'm not taking it off until later.
Are you looking for a car?
Like he was there.
Ben, you're in the video. Well, why is oh no, there isn't. That's the time. No, that's the time. No, I want to do like a selfie. All three of us, you guys should go.
I don't want to picture. I just want to talk
Zero people watching. Everyone.
I'm going to call it.
Are you crying? I'm not crying. Yes, you are.
4 years.
Finally.
I'm a I'm in 11th grade. Oh, yeah. I'm not.
Because there's fun.
Since the time you left it 45 years now, how is your life?
I mean, actually, sports
very close with Israel. Help Israel. It's a different job.
My neighbor on it.
I was just taking
You don't know when you My son. He's gonna be a lawyer. He's gonna be a lawyer. He might be a lawyer. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful
Thank you guys for coming.
You're unreal. I want to take a picture. Can we take a photo?
Yeah.
I know.
Zoom out.
It's all goes.
Click on the one. Money knows.
Seriously, Michaela? You waiting for him? Are you waiting for him? Maybe we have a line here. People waiting for him. Yeah.
I wasn't able to get through. Bye bye.